Hey, everybody. Different episode today for the big thing. As you see in the description, obviously, you're going to see Dan Murrell and Kate Mulligan and Roxy Striar in just a moment. Now, this is kind of a decision I made last night. We usually do a whether it's a live event for the website people at thekristianharloff.com once a month, and you can have various guests that pop in, and we have like a little kind of fun discussion party that we have for specifically for the website peeps. But last night we had this conversation, and Murrell even jokes about it at one point. He's like, "Hey, this might be," because we're talking about the SAG strike a lot. We talk about the upcoming UAP hearings and all these other things. But we really talked about the SAG strike and the effect it had on our industry. That's the majority. That's the bulk of the conversation. But at one point, Dan's like, "Oh, is this the most boring conversation that you've had so far?" I'm like, "No, it's one of the most interesting, to be completely honest." I wrote to PLD, who's a producer on the show, and I said, "Hey, man, this is a great conversation." I thought about it, like, I got to put this up as a big thing episode. Like, I think I got to make it public. I got to like let everybody be in on this conversation because it's just a great conversation that myself and Roxy and Kate and Dan had. And yeah, I was very proud of it. So I was like, yeah, why don't we do that? Let's put that up there. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put this conversation you're going to see. It's a pretty long conversation with me, Dan Murrell, Roxy Striar, Kate Mulligan, and we talk really a lot about how this strike has had an impact in general on the business, our thoughts on it, our thoughts on the strike itself, our thoughts on how the impact it's had on certain people, the idea that it's still a bit confusing overall of what people cannot do in perception and those types of things. And then obviously they had the big UAP hearing today that Congress met on that I've been talking about, that I'll get into more depth with Riley coming up soon, and we'll probably talk about a little bit more Roxy. But on this show that I'm about to show you, we discuss like the upcoming stuff and kind of tell you guys to know that I've been really into this right now, and just more information to get out there. We discussed it for a little bit. So that's what's going on for today's episode. I'm excited for you guys to see it. It's a good one. It's a really good one. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, do me a favor, hit that button, subscribe to the channel, because it's going to be, we're at 85,000 already. We got to 85,000 subscribers already, and that's because you guys have helped us out. Not even 2 years really running this thing, and we got to about 85. So thank you guys so much as we continue to grow. Again, thekristianharloff.com. You can join there. And our sponsors, so important, our sponsors. And I've told you about Rocket Money before. If you haven't been balancing your accounts with Rocket Money, you should. And for people who don't, what is Rocket Money? Rocket Money, for me, I've had it for a long time before it was even Rocket Money. It was a company called Truebill, and then they turned over to Rocket Money. And it's like you have all these different subscriptions, whether it's streaming or whatever it might be. And you don't even realize, a lot of the times you'll see this thing, you'll go, oh, sign up for free. And then in about 30 days, we'll charge you, your kid's college tuition per month. And you forget that you signed up in the first place. Where do these charges come from? Rocket Money takes all of that stuff. They show you everything you do. They'll help you cancel subscriptions. They'll help you balance your finances. And it's been a help for me. I love it. If you want to sign up, please head on over to rocketmoney.com/thing. Not only are you helping the show out, but you're going to be helping yourself out, and you'll be thanking me. I have so many people signing up for Rocket Money. Excited for that. And please do it because it helps tremendously. So that being said, let's get into this episode. This is myself, Roxy Striar, the great Dan Murrell, and Kate Mulligan. Here it is. Here's the big thing. We're going live early, 4 minutes early on the website. So if you're brand new, you're just joining us here for the first time on the site, thank you so much. But I know a lot of people watch this on the replay anyway, so it's fine. Thanks for joining us here today. It's me, and I am not by my lonesome, because we were going to do like one of the big me and Winston and Coy and Steph and Mike and everybody too. And then PLD made a suggestion. He's like, what do you think about you and Dan shooting the shit? I said, hell, man, Dan Murrell's available. I'd love to shoot the shit with Dan Murrell. As I said, bias. Now I can say it. My favorite Schmoedown competitors of all time. That's right. Sorry, everybody else. But I also really like Dan as a person. I really like Dan as a film pundit. He's one of the few people that I actually, when he puts a video up, I watch it. I know it's probably not the best to say, but it's true. I like watching, hearing what Dan's going to say about things, and because he puts, as well. You tune into my channel, and you're gonna hear, New York idiot laughing about nonsense and then giving his film opinions, but then you want to talk to a real film pundit, someone who really understands the breakdown of filmmaking and love for it. It's Dan Murrell. So we're going to talk to Dan, and I'm definitely going to talk to him about my latest fascination. You guys know it. And tomorrow we got those hearings, baby. Who's watching them? Who's watching them? I saw Dan kind of tilt his head, not knowing what I'm talking about. That's a problem. That's a problem. And we got to get to the bottom of it. Why more people are not talking about this, guys. We'll talk about it with Dan as well. So again, thanks for everybody who's joining us. I know, again, you're coming in a little when you're walking in here right now. You're going, hey, you guys started early. Yeah, we started a little early, so I'm going on my little monologue. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we got to look at this. It's not going to just be. What's up, Dan Murrell?
Hello.
Guess what?
What? Do we have another player 3 entered the game?
If we have someone else who's entered the game, but before we bring in said guest, yeah. So you were gonna say you were coming in. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. And it's because you shouldn't feel bad, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that most people overestimate how much people that are on YouTube watch other YouTube channels, because I actually don't watch very many myself, because it's like I'm usually working.
Yeah.
So I don't have a whole lot of time. And when I do, honestly, the last thing I want to watch usually is movie stuff. I want to watch I've been on those insider videos lately, which is kind of like movie stuff, but it's like, we asked a guy who knows heists to say how real is Ocean's 11, that kind of stuff. I'm into that.
That's fun. That's fun stuff for sure.
Yeah, I don't get into reviews and stuff that much on my downtime, because it's like that's my work time too. So I feel bad.
It's the same, but like for me, it's like it's the way you kind of break stuff down. Like I was telling you before we went on the air, like the SAG stuff that you did, I thought was really great. Not only the stuff about everything in general, and we'll talk about it with our special guests as well too, because they are very involved with both strikes.
Oh,
but I will say that
I don't know who the guest is. I'm trying to guess who it is.
I'll give you a guess before we bring them in.
Okay.
But yeah, and I think that when you were breaking that down, but then here's my thing with the whole influencer reviewer thing. I am on this same exact page that you are on, and I said this on my live stream earlier today, is that I am a member of SAG. I support SAG. I support the writers. I support everything that they're fighting for. The only thing I wish that they would be a little bit more clear with are people that are doing reviews and TikToks and all that type of stuff, because there are people who are in bumfuck nowhere, and they're like, oh, should I not post videos because I'm not supporting it? That's not how it works. Now, if you or I were invited to a screening by, let's say, Universal, Universal says, all right, Dan, you know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna pay you $2,000 to go see this movie, but you got to post it on Twitter, you got to post it at 9 a.m. You got to put that. You can't do.
Yeah, that's paid studio publicity. Yeah, I actually started posting to TikTok for the first time like a couple weeks ago.
I saw.
And I haven't posted again, because literally it was right as the strikes were going on, and like the second thing I posted was like, hey, I'm going to do reviews for these reasons, and I just got all this like, oh, okay, scab. I'm like, I don't need this in my life, so I haven't even really, because apparently TikTok is like the place where a lot of people are like, if you're reviewing movies, you're doing publicity. I don't care what you say. I don't care what SAG-AFTRA says. I don't care what anybody says. You're a scab. I'm like, well, I don't need that in my life.
That's so silly. It's so silly.
It is, because it's not. And I said it's not publicity. Like film criticism is not publicity. And anybody who's seen me review a Transformers movie can attest to that, except for the last one, which I did like. But
listen, there is a conversation, and I agree with that. Anything in general, if some guy walking down the street who has never turned on a camera nor picked up a pen in his life to write a review or anything, walking down the street has a Batman shirt on, that person in essence is promoting Batman.
Yeah,
they're not actively promoting it. They're wearing it because they like Batman, but they're promoting it because when they're walking down the street, someone could look over and go, "Oh, guys, a Batman! I'm watching Batman tonight," and goes and pays for a Batman rental or whatever it might be. So, but he's not actively being asked by the studio to wear that shirt and to do those things. And like, we want you at this time. We know that there's about a bunch of people going to be walking around. Go and wear this shirt and go over there. Then he's being paid to promote, and then that's the difference of it. And people don't understand that. And like the other thing is reviewers reaction, and SAG even put something out that criticism is not a violation of it, and it's, and
I'm not even in the union, so it's like, it's not even like, I don't even have to worry about it on that level. It's some people just they make up their minds about things, and it's that's just how it is.
And I wrote an email and I said, I need to, if you guys can be a little bit more clear, because I'm hearing different things. That was 6 days ago. They wrote back when I paid the dues. And I think that there's something about where they're like, they probably also don't want people to go and see these things. And like, look, we're not going to tell anybody not to see it, not to review it. We're not going to tell anybody to do that. But if they don't, because they don't, we're not going to say anything about that either, because that does punch the studio in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, somebody asked me about that, and they said, well, it was on my charts video, my box office video today, and they're like, well, aren't you kind of playing into it? Like, because I was talking about the AMPTP a little bit, and they're like, aren't you sort of playing into their hands by, talking about box office and like being happy that these movies made money because that helps the studios? And I'm like, the way that I see it actually is, this weekend to me proved the value of writers and actors and directors more than literally almost every weekend ever at the box office, because like AI and the CEOs didn't write and direct Barbie. That was Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach who were on strike, and Cillian Murphy, a brilliant performance. He's on strike. And, it's like, to me, the fact that both those movies did really well, like that's kind of a kick in the dick to the studios a little bit, because they can't be like, we're not making any money off this stuff. See, like the market just doesn't support it anymore. It's like, no, it does. You just have to, like, this is how valuable they are. It's not what they're gonna, they're not gonna listen.
They'll spin it. They'll spin it. But well, we actually have two guests now, dear.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Okay, so do you want? I'm gonna give you a guess. I'll give you one guess to get the first person.
You said our first guest was in SAG or mixed up in the SAG after and involved
in both unions.
In both. So perhaps someone in front of the camera and a scribe, as the trades would say. I love their stupid, outdated words. A scribe.
Could be a scribe. Could be associated with scribes.
I mean, you get some great guests, Kristian. So I say, welcome to the big thing, Greta Gerwig.
You got it, nailed it.
Hey,
hey guys, it's me, Greta Gerwig. Do you remember when Timothy Chalamet was the best Laurie since Christian Bale? I sure do.
How are you? Kate Mulligan is here, ladies.
I've got so much to say about what you were talking about.
Okay. So yeah, where do you stand on that? Because then we're gonna bring our final guest.
Oh yeah, you can bring the next guest in.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, do that. This is your show, okay?
Because our special guest will also have a lot to say about this as well too. Now, Kate, you know who the special guest is?
I do.
Okay, so Dan, I'm gonna give you another guess.
Okay.
No hints here, though. Let's see. I'll give you hints. Involved in is very passionate about both of the strikes, but has stake in one particular one for sure.
Has a stake in one particular one for sure. So perhaps acting more than writing, or writing more than acting.
That would be a good way to single it out.
Scribing more than imbibing.
Scribing more than whatever they use for actors. Thespian.
Could be a thespian. Could be a thespian.
Yeah, could be a thespian. Yeah. I mean, I'll say. Oh, let's see. Who could it be? I'm actually going to make a real guess here.
Yep.
Noah Baumbach.
I was going to say Noah Baumbach.
Carrot Top.
Carrot Top. I knew it. I'm going to say John Roca.
Good call.
It is me, John.
It's John Logan!
Woohoo!
Where's your cowboy
Outlaw
at?
Nation.
Where's
Yeah.
your cowboy at?
I don't know. Good question. I do have one.
Did you fix the white balance on your camera?
No.
Because it looks good.
Okay. Wow. Shady.
No,
Shady and helpful.
It looks really good, I should say. It's always I gave you a compliment the second you set up your studio, so you know that I like.
No, I'm with you. All my shit looks. There's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it looks good. Sometimes it doesn't look good. Right now, I don't have my red lights behind me. I didn't turn them on, so maybe that's why. I can't be a tech wizard. I don't know how, and I wasn't born to do that part. I'm good at like 4 things in life, and the rest of it, I'm so bad at. It is unbearable.
well, we're glad to have you because this is actually going to be a good conversation because all 4 of us have strong opinions on all of this. All 4 of us can have intelligent conversations with each other, and all 4 of us are not on the same page when it comes. Well, not necessarily not on the same page, but like nervous about certain things as opposed to others who might not be, right? But Kate, you heard Dan and I talking about it before. What would you like to respond with?
Well, I feel like in order to be a scab, you have to be somebody who crosses a picket line for one of the 2 unions. And you have to do that most likely as a union member. So Dan Murrell can do literally anything and never be a scab if he's not in SAG or in the Writers Guild. And neither union expects people who aren't in their unions to boycott. That nobody's even asking that. I think when the Writers Guild strike started, so for those of you who don't know, my husband's in the guild. He's a guild captain for the Writers Guild. He has a show on Nickelodeon called Aaron and Aaron. And the strike came along and he walked out. He didn't get to film the last 2 episodes. He didn't get to edit the last 7 episodes. And he was proud to do it because he believes very much in the union. But very early on in the strike, he saw people that were driving into the studio and people on the guild and Writers Guild were yelling scab at them. And Dickie's like, that's not cool. They're not scabs. He's like, that could be a janitor going into Warner Brothers. That could be a PA going into Warner Brothers. That could be, so he's like, it's not, stop that. And eventually, then they stopped doing that. But the truth is, anybody who's going to make you, you guys are not being paid on YouTube by SAG. Right. You're not. Right. And I think, obviously, anything, if people think, promoting a movie, the actors are not allowed to promote their movies right now. If it's your, that sucks for Roxy, who's got a movie that's going to be coming out soon, but at the same time, that maybe that movie will be held or whatever. It's just, to me, you have to be in the union in order for it to be wrong for you to cross the picket line. Right. Nobody else is expected to. You can stand in solidarity and still do a review.
So I have a question. Because you said he was a guild captain, which is amazing. Is it like the National Reserve, where once the strike is called, is there a uniform insignia? Does he get the title? Does he address as such for the duration of the strike?
Only behind closed doors.
I'll tell you, he's got a special uniform for me. No, he has a vest, and they were all given these hats that say captain. And then he was most writers get to decide when they're gonna show up to the picket. He got assigned a gate and a time. So, and then people check in with him and he sort of makes sure things are safe. And for a while he was told to, because the Teamsters, the woman that's in charge of the Teamsters, had vowed solidarity that the Teamsters were also not going to cross picket lines. He was supposed to photograph for the Teamsters every truck that went through. Because they were considered scabs. So
I have a couple of follow-ups for you, Kate. Number one, because I keep getting this question and I don't know the answer to this. How did Dickie become a captain? He
started being a captain on one of his shows. One of the shows he was, not his shows.
How does one become a captain? Are you voted?
So basically every show that you get put on, or every movie, I suppose, every show that you get put on, they look for a representative. And so he was the captain for the room on the Thundermans when he wrote on the Thundermans. And so what happens is you become the liaison between the Thundermans and the guild. So any problems that anybody's like, wait, I think this is a guild violation, I think, then Dickie's the liaison. Now, what I will say is, Kristian, you said that you wrote SAG 6 days ago. And
Kristian, come on. What happened?
I don't know what happened. Sorry.
No, you don't. You really that wasn't a bit.
Oh,
I actually thought it was on Roxy's end. I was like, uh-oh, she's out.
Uh-oh.
The white balance kicked her out.
Yeah, it did. What were you saying, Kate?
No, anyway, basically, so then once you become a captain, then you sort of stay in the captain. Like there's like not a captain listserv, but you could have been a captain for a show years ago, but you're still considered a captain. So those are the people that sort of go forward and now are, when there's a strike, are now also, if they want the position, can stay in that position to organize the strike. Kristian, you saying that you wrote SAG 6 days ago and never got an answer.
Right.
This is a real stark difference to the Writers Guild because
different.
Yeah.
Well, no surprise.
Yeah,
They are the Writers Guild.
they are the Writers Guild. They write those emails quickly, but obviously the number of people involved in each guild is very different. And what I would say to you is the SAG is still trying to figure it. They haven't had to strike in so long. They don't have their organization down per se. Right. So it's not, I don't think they were as quick to.
Well, what they were clear about is like, they were clear about, a couple times with the criticism as far as what a critic is. And as far as if you're critiquing work, then that they don't expect critics to stop. I think that what has happened is that influencers, a lot of people I've seen on YouTube who have shut down their YouTube channels. And the way that they've been doing it, two of them have been two reasons why they've been doing this. One, because they don't really know what they can or cannot do. And like you said, Kate, I think one of the reasons why, like someone who's not in the union, why they're not doing it is because of the fear of, well, if they see some of the stuff that I do, and they're going to take that as if I didn't support them, and then they're not going to let me in the union when my time has come that I can do that. So it's like this thing of like, I'm not saying that they're purposely putting the fear out there, but they're not answering enough questions. So there is a lot of fear out there. So that's part one. Part two is that a lot of the channels that I've seen that are shutting down the channels are doing this thing as far as, well, we want to be in solidarity to say we're not going to cover these things and we support you. And I understand that logic, but the thing is, it's not what they're asking for. And that's what they need to be more clear about, because what they're asking for is, again, as I mentioned with Dan, someone says, okay, so I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars. Like if whatever the next, we're going to see, Paramount calls, says, okay, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars to go see that movie. And then I need you to post it at this. I need you to post it on Instagram. And for that, you're going to be paid X. Now you are crossing the line. Now you are a scab, because now you are getting paid promotion as opposed to doing your job, which they're not paying for my gas. They're not paying for the stuff I have to do. They're not paying for the electricity when I shoot my stuff to do my thing. And that's the difference that a lot of people aren't really understanding.
I think also part of the problem is if you're doing anything that's going to prolong the strike, then it's problematic. But reviewing content that already exists and actors who have already turned in their performances, honestly, only I don't know. I hope some reviewer watches Aaron and Aaron talks about it, because we can't talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I hope somebody's like, guys, this new kid show hit Netflix in September. I hope that somebody like goes out and does that, because otherwise, like the stuff that's already been shot, what I would say is like, if Kristian or Dan, if the studio said to you, hey, we know you're not in the guild, but we really like the way you cover movies. Would you ever consider writing for us a show about? Now you're crossing. Now, if they know they can hire people, then you've prolonged the strike being settled, right? You guys reviewing stuff that's already been out there feels like it should not be a violation.
But what
I started doing.
Good.
So what I started doing in my reviews is and I'm going to do it for the duration of the strike, is if it's a struck studio. So A24, if I do Talk to Me, A24 is not the AMPTP, and I talked about it on my chart show this week because they've gotten waivers and stuff. But in my review of Barbie, I just add like one little line. So I'll be like, Barbie directed by Greta Gerwig and written by her, Noah Baumbach, and it's about this, that, and the other. And then I'll be like, it's also being released by Warner Brothers, who paid their executive $25 million last year and claims that they don't have the money to pay the actors and writers. And then I just keep going with the review. And it's just that's getting dropped into every single review until the strike is over. Because it's like, exactly. I think people should stay aware of it and don't let it just kind of fade into the background. And that's the other thing that I enjoy doing. And it's something else if we're talking about doing what they asked for, because the one thing I've seen them continually say is talk about it, feature it, tell people what's going on, why they should care. Yeah, so many people on my channel are like, why should I care about a bunch of millionaires on strike? They all make $20 million a movie. It's like, that is 50 people out of 160,000 or however many of SAG-AFTRA members there are. Like, that is not, it's not even close to that. Like, it's insane.
I think that a couple of things. Number one, I think that we're all it is our opinion interpreting the information they have trickled out through all different arenas. Kristian, you don't think that they are being unclear on purpose, or you didn't say that they are. I do think that they're probably being unclear on purpose.
They're not answering emails on purpose.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, I've emailed them multiple times.
Yeah.
I know you have too. And also 80 of my friends have emailed them multiple times, and they are not equipped to handle this right now because like Kate said, this is not a common occurrence for that. So we can all pretend that we know the answers, but really we don't.
No,
We're doing the best we can to interpret the information that they've put out on Instagram, on their website, and that Variety article. We're all reading the same shit. We're just reading it slightly differently. So while Kate believes that neither SAG nor the WGA is asking only their members to do anything, that is not my interpretation of what has been put out there, because they have blatantly stated that that is not what they think. Now, again, I talked about this on my show. I don't really give a fuck what anybody chooses to do during this time if, to me, they aren't clearly crossing the picket line, which we've already discussed. I think that everybody has to do what they can to survive, to feed their families, and still remain true to themselves and be able to look in the mirror. And I don't think a single one of my friends has done a bad job navigating this.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be a judgment, right? There shouldn't be a judgment on it either way. It's like I feel like it's unfortunate for some people that I've seen people who I can confidently say there are people that, let's say, have a small YouTube following of 200 subscribers that are not posting content right now because they're afraid that they're not going to get into the union, or they're afraid that they're not supporting, and they're building. And YouTube is a game, Dan, as you know, you stop momentum for a week and that can hurt you. Like, if you stop posting videos for a week, that algorithm is going to make you pay for it.
I've got a 3-week honeymoon that is haunting my dreams right now, Kristian, for that exact reason, because it's not
I'll do a channel takeover, Dan.
Yeah,
Dan, don't worry. Roxy and I will take it over for you. No problem.
Perfect.
Yes, absolutely. I can pull out my baseball caps right now, Dan. I've got a pair of glasses I've got flannels. I'm ready to go.
Honestly, I'll just put Neil in front of the camera. Same diff.
I mean, honestly, probably better.
Right, your channel will go viral within but no, and in the same thing, it's like, yes, but I don't, anybody who's doing it, like I said, it's unfortunate, but I understand why they're doing it. And then there's some prominent YouTube channels that I've seen not doing. I saw someone today that posted this whole thing, and they haven't got answers from SAG yet, but in the time being, they're not putting content out, and I'm like, and they're not in the union, and it's like, you're not posting stuff, and this is how these people make their living, and it's like no one's being clear with them. The other thing that I respect it, and I do respect it for sure. What I don't respect is anybody on, let's say, the opposite side, that if they don't know a clear-cut thing and they're like, oh, you're posting? I haven't gotten this, maybe behind my back, I'm sure I have, but I haven't gotten this, to where it's like one of these things.
I've gotten several text messages about you, Kristian.
Oh, really?
Several.
That's
to all of which I reply saying, think he's doing a great job navigating his channel. Because you're not doing.
Roxy, you feel like SAG has said people that aren't in our union should not be reviewing content? You feel like they've said it?
Yeah, it's pre-SAG members and non-union members who are
pre-SAG is that, like, somebody in the guild said this to Dickie. One of his friends said, saying that you're pre-Writers Guild is like saying I'm pre-NBA. You're not in the guild till you're in the guild, bitch. Like, it's just that's like such a threat on SAG's part, and I feel like fuck them if that's their take on it.
The way that
they're not, nobody outside of the guild owes that guild anything.
I think that they don't feel that way.
Here you go. Oh, yeah. I'm excited. Green Chef is back. You guys know I've been talking about Green Chef. Green Chef saved me when my family went out of town, and I had a box from Green Chef, and I made everything. I made stuff. I made shrimp dishes. I made chicken dishes. I made all these stuff, and it's really, really just amazing, amazing dishes that Green Chef can send you through the ingredients. It is the #1 meal kit for eating clean with dinners that work for you, not the other way around. You eat clean, easy way with recipes that help manage your weight and support your wellness goals without skimping on flavor. That is a fact. I went nuts. It doesn't take very long, by the way, to make these meals. You follow the instructions. You don't have to. You can make your own things. You can make your own little. I made a few rice bowls and other things that I've done on my own, but I followed the instructions that they sent, the recipes recently, and it was so good. You feel your best this summer with seasonal recipes featuring certified organic fruits, vegetables, organic cage-free eggs, and sustainably sourced seafood. Again, I made myself a few shrimp dishes. I'm a seafood nut. They deliver everything you need to eat clean the easy way. Feel your best with nutritionist-approved recipes packed with clean ingredients that support your healthy lifestyle, and it tastes great too. I'm telling you, I went nuts. I was so excited. I'm loving Green Chef. And a lot of you guys have listened to me and got Green Chef, and you haven't regretted it. Make more time for your summer goals with their convenient step-by-step recipes with options ready in less than 30 minutes. If a dope like me can do it, you can do it too. I think I'm a pretty good cook, actually, and this really been helping me do some more stuff. Anyway, for me, I anything seafood, or I actually made a few burgers and stuff that they sent too. The meat was really delicious. So they have a lot of different options. Go to greenchef.com/thing50 and use that code thing50 for what? 50% off plus free shipping. That's the deal right there. greenchef.com/thing50. Use that code thing50 and get 50% off plus free shipping. I'm telling you, man, they're the best. They're the #1 meal kit for eating well. Green Chef.
A lot of people at the picket lines right now are talking about this. They're like, why wasn't this a problem when WGA has been striking for 3 months and now all of a sudden people are confused about what they're allowed to do? Because SAG has different rules and standards and things that they're asking. And SAG also, one of the biggest problems that we're seeing is that, like Dan mentioned, there are 160,000 SAG members. They are all in drastically different places. When I'm on the picket lines, I'm talking to Michael Chiklis and David Duchovny and Joey King. And then I'm talking to people who have a vested interest in being in SAG one day. Right. And what people want is so it's so different. What they care about, and it's just the union is massive. I mean, it's truly massive. So
it's massive and it's messy because of that very thing.
Yeah, there's this gray area. I think the thing I started seeing it pop up was, you're right, because like the Writers Guild, it seemed fairly straightforward for whatever reason, but was because SAG put out the thing that was like, first of all, influencers. What's an influencer? Who counts as one? I don't call myself an influencer, and I don't consider myself an influencer because I do news, I do reviews. Like that's just, I feel like I fall under more of the journalism category. Yeah. But some people would say that I'm absolutely an influencer. I'm a little bit older, but also there's, the guidelines they put out. They're like, influencers who aren't, shouldn't post about publicity about movies, paid or organically. So it's like, okay, #1, what do you consider publicity? And I know that there have been these things that have come out like that have said criticism isn't, but SAG, hasn't put out that like official press release saying that, criticism isn't. And then it's like, well, what do you mean post organically publicity? So like, is somebody saying, I saw Oppenheimer and it was great on Threads? Is that publicity organically posted? Will somebody get in trouble for that? There's so much gray area, and it's just leaving room for
and no one's being clear. So that's why those 7 or 8 texts that you get Roxy is so irrelevant, because it's like they don't have any answers either. They have their little pocket of
do you think I think that's relevant? I think that their opinion is as relevant as each one of your opinions.
That's what I'm saying.
It's your opinion, man.
And it's like, you don't have an answer. It's different if it's like, no, we know because we've been talked to. Then it's like, wait a minute. If you know and you've been talked to about it and you have real clear-cut answers, please let me know, because I'm going to guarantee that most of those people that text you were not in the union. I am in the union, and I got an email today from not about that, but about what's going on in general and what we're asking for. And I've said it, and I've been very clear on the shows that you've been on with me, and all the other shows that I've done. I'm in full support of all of it, and in no world would, if I'm getting offered a gig by any of them, am I going to say, oh yeah, sure, why not? That's not the thing. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing to support, as you mentioned, Roxy, to support my family, to continue to do my work and stay in the guidelines of what they posted as far as criticism and reviews. Now, as far as an influencer, I think that there's also a difference, and this is the verbiage that people use, and sometimes, again, why it is so important to use the right verbiage, because I think even when they write influencer, what in essence they mean, at least in my opinion, is paid influencer, because that's what
I think of when I hear influencer. I think somebody that is paid by a company to do a certain thing, which is but again, it's all opinion. It's gray area. There's no answer.
It seems like
the paid or non-paid or all the things. Why does it keep saying paid or non-paid? Because I thought I understood when they were saying promotion that they meant paid promotion. But then they say paid or non-paid promotion, and that's like, what is, and also, okay, say you're like 17 right now and living in Nebraska, and
Modesto's the first place I thought of.
Okay, Modesto. Okay. And you're in Modesto and you go and see one of the big movies that's out, and then you like put out a bunch of social posts about it. Is that promotion, or no, because you don't have enough followers, or no, because you're not?
No, because
you want to join the union one day. I'm unclear.
It seems to me like it's an overreach on SAG's part to say, so I hope that they're saying this in an effort to scare people who really want to be in the union from doing this, but also good luck tracking it. That's A of all. But B of all, that would be, it seems to me, the equivalent of SAG saying, if you are a janitor at Warner Brothers Studio, we recommend not showing up, because if the executives don't have clean bathrooms, then the strike ends sooner. And to me, it's like, you don't get to tell people to not go to work if they are not in your union.
Right. And
I think, especially, it also seems to me like SAG's doing a disservice to their actors who are in things right now to say that people who aren't in the union shouldn't be promoting these films in any way.
That was Dan's point. Dan had a great point in his video about what he's doing is he's essentially, because they can't right now, and what he's been by
someone promote it for us. We can't do it.
It's not even promotion as much as it's like you're having a conversation about it in the same way that if my dad, who has a Facebook account, goes and sees Indiana Jones tomorrow, and then he posts, oh, I like that Indiana Jones movie. Oh, Phil Harloff, you just crossed the line. What are you talking about? He's a 70-year-old man who just went and saw a movie and posted. That's not.
What's the recourse SAG has if you're not in the union?
Okay, so I do think that there's a couple of things. Like, I hear you guys completely. I partially agree and I partially disagree. I think that they actually are going to probably do a pretty decent job tracking this. All four of us here have friends who have posted on social media saying that if they deem somebody to be a scab based on whatever their interpretation is, they're shooting those emails over to SAG.
And SAG's not reading them.
No, not right now, but that's not the point of my comment. The point of my comment is that there are people right now who are out there thinking they are little SAG warriors, and they're going to report everybody to SAG.
Shocking.
I do think there's going to be people who do things during this time that are not going to be able to join the union. I really believe that is true.
Right.
Do I believe that should be true? That's not mine to interpret.
I can tell you this: they cashed my check, and my dues went through. I'll tell you that.
I also don't. I think that there's no such thing as a perfect strike, right? They're doing what they can right now to try and get a little bit closer. SAG is miles and miles away from these studios in making an agreement. We keep seeing the posts come out about what SAG's asked for, what the studio is offering. I think that they are feeling like their backs are against the wall, because they kind of are. They're feeling that heat, that pressure of their members not being able to survive during this time. Right. And they're trying to do the best they can to figure out how to put pressure on these studios, about 15 people being the problem none of us being the problem. You guys know the Zaslavs of the world, Iger,
Right.
Brandos, that they're doing the best they can. And do I think it's great to tell people who aren't in a union, here's what we're hoping that you do, or here's what we're expecting, or you won't be allowed in the union? It might not necessarily be my choice, but do I feel like that might speed along the process? Might.
No.
I mean,
I know you don't.
I
think
have
so,
no. I have no expectation or aspirations of joining the union. Maybe I'll have a brilliant idea one day, right? But I'm not planning to become, I don't think I would ever qualify for union membership for what I do. For me, it's all about just being like, they have my absolute support. Yeah. And I would, and then people say like, well, I'm like, no, I wouldn't anyway. I don't take paid anything from studios because I don't want to be in a position where if I take a Paramount job and then I give a Paramount movie a good review, well, then it becomes like, well, you're only giving that movie a good review because you took the money from Paramount. That's just in general. I don't take studio money for anything, but let's say I did, I would absolutely, even though I don't want to be in the union, I have no aspiration to be in the union, I would not take studio money to do anything right now during the strike because I would consider that, well, they can't go to these people, so they're going to me. Right. To me, that would be doing something that contributes to the strike. Well, something
here's the tricky thing, Dan. Here's a tricky thing too, because this is a rule also that says like you can do anything that has that you signed a deal before the strike itself happened. Right. Yeah. So I had what? Yeah. So like I have,
it's tough.
And I'm still going through notes with one. There's a particular thing I'll talk about it here. It's fine. It's a Jurassic Park thing, right? That I shot a long time ago, shot a while ago, signed it 5 days before the strike happened. And they're still going through notes and putting stuff as far as like, I'm not shooting anything more. It's all edited. It's all done and everything. But it's like, then when it comes out, I'm like, then it's what do I do? Do I put this deal was, because that does scare me. Because I'm like, this deal was made before the strike, like that's where I go, okay, that's a trickier situation for me because I know when I signed it, I have the documentation to prove that's when I signed it, but that doesn't change somebody who then sees a video of mine and goes, well, wait a minute, do me a favor. Can you prove that you signed it? But they're going to say right away, they're going to go, oh, you've got that deal that you did with Jurassic Park. And you're breaking your rules of what you said. Or this isn't criticism. This is something, you know what I mean? So it does.
I have that too, Kristian.
Yeah.
I have that too. And I have been thinking a lot about in my posts, how I'm going to navigate that. And I do think I'm just going to say it.
The same one, the Jurassic Park thing?
No.
Oh.
A different situation. I think I'm just going to write.
This deal was made before the strike.
Yeah.
You also have the receipts for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think people go after who they can because, I've kind of been sitting back too and been like, well, none of the stars of Oppenheimer, they're all on strike. So Christopher Nolan was left to do the publicity for the movie and was at the premiere. And in the back of my head, I'm like, pretty sure he's in the Writers Guild.
He's in the Writers Guild.
I mean, that seems like way more of a gray area. Or like I saw somebody that did a panel at Comic-Con that was for a project that was for one of the, a member of the AMPTP, and it's like, well, no, they're there as a, as a producer and it's just like, yeah, but they're also an actor and a writer. So it's like, but they're kind of like, there's no real value in going after those names because it's more about, and listen, I think the AMP, I've said it before, I think the AMPTP is gross and they're dirty. And I think that whoever gave that quote about starving writers out just absolutely just doesn't. I'm glad they said it because that allowed people to understand who I think some of these people are. I think that they are also out there fomenting a lot of this stuff. They want the actors focused on each other. They want them fighting with each other. They don't want. They want them to forget about the fact that they're the people that everyone's focus should be on. They want everybody trying to hash this out with each other. I 100% think, and again, I'm not in the union. But I 100% think that whole Fran Drescher story on the eve of the strike about like, well, if she was so concerned with the negotiations, then why was she in Italy doing this big promotional appearance? I 100% think that was a lot of people on AMPTP side, working that through the press to try to discredit her and make her seem like a hypocrite as the negotiations were ending. That from an outsider's perspective, I think there's 100% an effort to keep people fighting with each other, because then you're not focusing on them.
Do you know how many writers were working up until 11:59 on May 1st? Because at 12 o'clock on May, that doesn't make them bad people. That's just their last paycheck that they're going to get for the next however many months. The strike doesn't start till the strike starts.
But Fran was not working. She was on a yacht in Italy.
But she, I mean, unless she's lying, she said that was a paid appearance as a brand ambassador for that brand. Unless she's completely making that story up, she said that I was there because I was getting a paycheck.
You guys are completely right that I agree that the AMPTP is planting things and wants us fighting with each other, and it's working to a certain extent. But I just think that if you are the president of SAG and 160,000 people are about to lose their jobs, you don't go to Italy. You're just like,
absolutely. But was it illegal?
Fighting? No.
Was it a bad look? No.
It wasn't illegal. No,
No,
of course not. Of course not. I just thought, but now I think she's doing a great job, and I'm really fucking stoked that she's in the seat that she is. But
yeah, she's doing a great. I think she's since that situation, she's been doing everything. She's been on the line. She's been talking.
Like 10 other things. What she said about the Writers Guild too beforehand. It was like, ooh, Fran.
But yeah, I think leading up to it, she was probably preparing herself for battle, right? And didn't really say or have the right things in place before. But I think that the question is, once she's gone to the lines, has she been the person for the job? And I say the answer to that is yes. I think she has. Yeah.
Me
so.
Too.
But it's also one of those things where the majority of stuff, and I think we all talked about this, where SAG is fighting a particular fight that they need to win for their union members in general, which is the right fight that they're fighting. And so even if they are ignoring emails or not able to get to emails, rather, give them benefit of the doubt, because it's not to them at the moment, even though it might be inconsiderate, we can say, it's not the priority to them. The priority to them is to get this done, to get these people, to get on the lines, to get these people in the room, and to get the fair thing. I get it. It's the people on the side going, well, wait a minute. What's that person doing? I know what my rules are. Follow my rules. And it's like, you don't know what the rules are. So stay in your lane. Stay in your thing. And if I get an email that says, hey, this is so-and-so, one of your SAG reps, you're in the union, and we would like you to stop doing this thing, because then I will stop. Because to me, that is, I'm in this union. They're asking me, my union that I'm a part of, that Texty McGillicuddy is not a part of, has not asked me to do that. And there's been no clear cut thing that is said to me. There's been speculation by some people, but when they ask me to, that's when it's clear, then that's the thing. But again, full support on the actual things that they are fighting for, and not who the next Lex Luthor is and somebody did a video on it.
It's also important for people to remember at home that if you are not in the union, you do not get the benefits of being in the union. So things right now, like companies that are saying you get $300 free groceries a week here until the strike is done if you present your SAG card, or places that are saying that you get 25% off. There's tons of restaurants, or access to strike relief funds, which go through the union. If you are not in the union, you do not have access to union benefits during this time. And therefore you do not get the same support of the union, and should not be required, or it is much more challenging to have to do what the union is asking.
Well, I mean, that's sort of where if they came out and had a press conference, if SAG-AFTRA came out and they had a press conference, and they said, listen, we really feel like to get this thing moving, we have to draw a hard line, and we are asking our colleagues in the criticism community to hold reviews because we feel that this would have a measurable effect, then, I think I would probably say, okay. But to what you're saying, Roxy, to just sort of be like, well, you know what? I've decided that I'm going to take this stand, and I'm not. And I said it in my review. I'm not judging anybody who made the personal decision to say I'm not going to review movies during the strike because I feel like it's just not something I want to do. I 100% support that decision. But then to kind of point to someone else and say like, and you shouldn't either. It's like, this is my job. It's like you are basically saying that you need to follow my own stand, what I've decided, and you need to basically quit your job for an indeterminate amount of time with nothing, because it's like, well, you can review. Well, the funny thing is some people said, well, I'm not going to review new movies during the strike. I'm only going to review old movies. I'm like, that's the same thing. That's literally, those are both struck projects. Any old thing from a studio, any same thing.
That
But
was because
also,
of what they came out with, Dan, with that said that any current struck project that was released after July 12th. So I think people said that because that was at that time my interpretation. I didn't understand why, but that was my interpretation of what they were asking, was that if it was not as after July 12th struck project, that you could speak on it, because it's confusing.
but then
Right,
they also
everybody's
told
confused with
actors, you can't go to conventions and talk about your old work. So
Right.
then they're like, so old work is struck. But my point being, like, I understand, I respect people's decisions who aren't in the union as far as film critics go, to do this in solidarity. And I would, if that's what they choose, but to just sort of like draw this line in the sand and say, like, you need to do it too. I'm like, first of all, I disagree with the fact that criticism is publicity wholeheartedly. And I don't think it's in violation. And I think we need a thriving film community right now. And I was happy to tell people to go see Oppenheimer, because if these movies don't make any money, a lot of people say, like, oh, if all the movies bomb, then the producers will be forced to make a deal. No, they're going to close those purse strings even tighter, and they're going to say, see, we told you, there's just no money in it. Whereas if Barbie goes out and makes $1 billion, it's going to be real, pardon my French, fucking hard for David Zaslav to sit at the negotiating table and say, like, we can't afford to pay Greta Gerwig, guys. I'm sorry. Barbie only made $1 billion. I mean, where's the revenue stream for this kind of thing?
Right.
Like, that's my opinion.
It's totally true. It's like, you don't think that people like Margot Robbie and freaking Ryan Gosling and Greta Gerwig want you to talk about their movie? Of course they do. Of course they want to, because that's how they're going to get supported inside of all this. You're not just supporting the studio, you're supporting them, you're supporting all the people that are involved in this. It's the same, it's a different conversation, but it's the same way when somebody in a particular film causes a bunch of chaos and they're looked upon a particular way and was like, I'm not supporting that person, I'm not going to see their movie. And then you're like, well, yeah, but what about all the other people involved, right, too? So yes, it's studio that's giving you the money and they're making money, but you're also taking away from the actors, the directors, the writers. And as Dan said, them going, well, if you guys would have been out there promoting and done all this stuff too, you would have made this money. Nobody really is going to the theater anyway. We got to scale back. We can't give you this. We can't give you that. So I'm with Dan 100%. And I think that when it comes to, like, as I said already with the unions, I made that clear that I'm in support with what they're fighting for. But I'm also, as Dan said, I'm full support. Roxy, I've told you this on air, off air, full support that you don't feel comfortable in certain talking about things and everything too. I don't necessarily think that you have to do it, but I respect you, because I also,
and it's a movement. I'm gonna see how it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't come out. I didn't make a video coming out being like, here's what I am and I'm not talking about.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
I don't actually know. Like Amy Schumer, I just saw posted put out her thoughts on Barbie, because she was supposed to be in it and wasn't in it. And I was like, okay, so Amy Schumer talked about Oppenheimer and Barbie.
And then got kicked out of SAG.
And what Dan's
Publicly
point earlier
in Times
was,
Square today, I saw it's crazy. Right in the middle of Times
Calling
Square.
Times Square Med Square now.
Yeah.
They did publicly, and they recreated the Hunger Games to kick her out.
I going to what Dan said earlier and what you agree with, Kristian, I will say, like, and I'm not talking about it because I'm not allowed to talk about it, but I'm devastated about the fact that I worked my whole life to star in a movie that each one of the three of you guys in here were going to get a phone call about. And I can't call you and ask you to look like I'm devastated about that. People who are saying, like,
does your movie fall in the category of
on an AMPTP platform?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's distributed through the AMPTP.
Yeah. So
and it was probably a SAG agreement that she shot it under.
Yeah. I'm gutted. I mean, it's because what you guys are saying is true. All I want is for people to talk about the movie.
Right.
Yeah. All I want.
Right.
I'm gutted that I can't talk about it.
But I understand why you can't. Like that, I get. Like I like that rule, I understand. But like, I don't, like, if Dan watches it, he should be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's the same thing. It's like there's people like that are just, and that was what I was saying. It said the people who are then saying, well, I don't know for sure, as Dan said, I don't know for sure, but look, we all agree with each other. So because we all agree, if they don't do it, then we're going to call them out. I'm going to text Roxy and ask them why he's doing that then. And it's such a self-righteous thing. It really is. It's not what they're doing. Not if they're deciding not to do it. Again, respect to them. and respect, as I said to Roxy, I agree. Do it. And if you feel like that's how you're going to support, then please support that way. But how dare you? How dare you look upon someone else and text Roxy and say, why is Kristian doing this? He's scabbing. You don't know shit. You don't know shit.
You know what, Kristian? Half my texts were, Kristian's doing it. Why aren't you doing it? And I also don't take what I can do from what you do.
Right. No, you're your own person.
Because you don't sleep with his wife just because he does.
You're not. But the joke is you're not putting food on my family's table. That's part one. Part two is I actually did also have a conversation about that with you. And this is what I understand when it comes to because Corey, not comfortable talking about stuff right now. You're not. And I said, look, there's a difference between, let's say, myself, Dan, and like Greg Alba, who's doing stuff on Unreal Rejects, right? The difference is that the three of us run our channels, right? We are self-employed. We do this. Roxy is doing stuff with Greg and with myself, but her channel, I mean, if she chose to do stuff on her channel, she could, but that's not where her main source of what she really does is. She's a pundit on these things. She's an actress. So I understand the fear of risk. I understand that. And I understand it for both you and Coy. I really do. But for us, it's not fair to say, well, Kristian's doing it. Why aren't you? Because the answer to that question is I have my channel. I have to run my channel in order to live, in order to survive, in order to do the things I'm doing to fulfill my sponsors. But, and it's going to get into this other thing, my episodes on Monday, the last 2 Mondays have been higher than my normal episodes, 35 to 50,000 views an episode. And I haven't talked about movies. I talked about something very different, and we can get into that if everybody else has any further thoughts.
I just want to say one last thing, which is what Dan was talking about when people say, oh, it's just millionaires picketing to get more millions. What I will say is Dickie gave me a great soundbite for this, which is when it comes to the Writers Guild, the thing that's been negotiated, 80 days ago now, that failed to get negotiated on is something called the MBA, which is the minimum basic agreement. So there's something, SAG, we call it working for scale. That is the set amount that anybody who hires a Writers Guild writer or a SAG actor has to pay. There's a SAG scale day rate. There's a SAG scale under 5 rate. There's a background rate. Those are the things that have to be met. That is what's being negotiated for the writers, the minimum basic agreement. So when you think about the Chris Nolan or the Noah Baumbachs and Greta Gerwigs, they're not working on the SAG or the Writers Guild minimum basic agreement. We are talking about fresh out of college, going to get their first job as a staff writer. What has happened is, and this is what makes the Writers Guild so strong, is everybody that's in the Writers Guild, there was no such thing as a day player in the Writers Guild. I'm on SAG. I've been in SAG since 2006. I've made 9 movies, 9 motion picture movies that have been released in theaters, and I have never, ever once qualified for health insurance. I've made commercials. I haven't done it for years. I still see residuals every once in a while. I've never seen a streaming residual in my life.
No one has.
Never from a Netflix, never from a Paramount Plus, nothing. What I'm seeing comes from Lionsgate Entertainment, comes from whatever. You're going to have to wait. Thank you so much. I'll be right with you. Thank you. I love you. It's my cat. Meow. Right
Are the kids climbing on the walls now?
Right, yeah. It's the staircase at my parents' house. But what I will tell you is that, I never was going to make a living off of SAG. And what the Writers Guild has been able to do until this point is if you get on a movie, you're going to make enough to qualify for residuals. Right. If you get on a show, you have a minimum amount of weeks that you have to write. And what happened is streaming came in, they said, we're going to do something called mini rooms. So sorry. Oh, normally, you would be writing for 13 episodes, which would take up half of your year. You're going to just write on 1 week now. Well, suddenly writers aren't able to hit their health insurance. They're not able to make a living off of it. So when people say it's millionaires fighting for millions, no, the agreement they couldn't come to was the minimum basic agreement. Then you add in all that AI stuff. So to me, that for me is whenever somebody says well, it's rich people trying to get richer. I'm like, no, the rich people are going to stay rich. This contract doesn't actually affect them because none of them are on the minimum basic agreement.
Agreed, and that's why I want to go back to the overall. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's because of the business that we're in that we were talking about that specifically. There's not one person between the four of us that doesn't agree that that what they're fighting for in general is the right thing. You know, like it's like residuals should be paid out in streaming. The streamers should show their numbers. You know,
you shouldn't be able to do one day of work and have them own your AI for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, absolutely not.
That's
I had
all
a
that
writer
matters here.
friend who's done some stuff much bigger than web stuff, which is great, but it's not TV. Who I messaged him when this writer's strike was going on, and I was like, can you sort of, because it was tough to parse out, I was like, can you kind of give me the gist of what a mini room is? And when they explained it to me, I was like, oh my God, that just basically guts the entire profession. I mean, the idea of first of all, seasons used to be 22 episodes and you worked 9 months out of the year if you were a writer on one of those shows. So first of all, it's like, well, now they're 10 episodes and they don't do it every year. They do it every 18 months to 2 years. And on top of that, it's like, instead of, letting you stay on for weeks to write those 10 episodes, we're going to bring you in for, 2 weeks. Right. And then we'll go off and do the rest of it. It's like, oh my God, like that is just a radical change in how that works. It's crazy.
The last thing I want to say about this, and I'll stop being so long-winded, was A, I know my cat looks like a human. That's super weird. Sorry about that. B, I think the hope is the way the strike ends, at least from the writers' perspectives, from what I've heard in the circles that I'm around. I'm not in the Writers Guild, but I've given birth to 2 children for little to no money because of Writers Guild insurance. So I will literally do anything for that particular union. That being said, I do think what happened was a couple years back, there was something called packaging that was becoming a real problem for writers at the studios. And so what all of the writers did is unilaterally, they fired their agents, fired every single writer, fired every single agent. And it was scary. There's no question that that's scary. What happened was the little agencies, it doesn't really matter if you and the whole idea was you can't package us. You can't say, because what was happening was basically the agents weren't fighting for good rates for the writers because they were going to get a cut of whatever the movie made. They're getting a producer's fee now. Right. So now there's cross interest. No, you should be making off of me. You get 10% of what ended up happening was they said, we're not working with any agents that do packaging. And then what happened was the littler agencies that are like, okay, packaging isn't a big deal to us, started saying, we'll sign it. We won't package.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, the greatest writers are going to these little agencies. Then the bigger agencies are like, wait, what? Sorry, what? Okay, so son of a, all right, fine. I think it was CAA or WME but ultimately every single agency, including the CAAs and the WMEs, signed this thing. And I think that's the hope with this strike, is that there's going to be some platforms that are like, streaming is not our, like a Viacom. I don't have any proof for this, but in my head, I'm like, okay, Viacom. Viacom is Paramount. It's Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
It's Nickelodeon. It's all of that. They've got a lot that's not streaming. So they might say,
yeah, but hey. Kate, here's the problem. What you're saying though, is that unfortunately, and they need to switch this, they're in the majority rules type thing, right? So it's like if all of the studios,
the AMPTP is in that, Kristian. You mean that they have to it's an all or nothing?
All or nothing.
I think they can make individual.
They can.
Deals.
This is actually
individual deals. They just use that collective bargaining power, because I think that's also what's going to happen. Is I think eventually someone's going to get fed up with. I think it's been in the air for a while. Netflix, or Apple, or whoever, and be like, listen, you're the one that's holding this up. We're going to figure this out because we don't really do that much or as much with, we're not solely streaming. And then all of a sudden, well, now actors and writers and directors can go work for Paramount. So Paramount's back in production, or, right. I mean, A24 is still in production because they're not. So then 2 or 3 studios now are getting stars and writers and actors to start doing movies because they made it's like how Letterman was back on late night during the last writer's strike. Eventually his writers, the Writers Guild for his show, they basically said, we're going to make a deal with the network so that we can go to work. And
they
then
will
Letterman's
be able
back
to pull
on
off
TV.
and do piecemeal. The AMTPT is not a union the way that SAG and the Writers Guild. The Writers Guild actually stated, we hope this works the same ways that the agencies do. as that we start pulling off these, because think about it, Netflix obviously has the most at stake in this, or an Apple TV that's solely stream, and obviously they produce movies and whatnot, but when you look at these like a Viacom, where it's like Nickelodeon's not getting new content now, Nick Jr.'s not getting new content now. Right. I think the hope is that these studios that have more at stake than just the streaming will find a way to sign the deals, and that will put the pressure.
Well, they're running. They're running into the reserves now, because even when the writer strike happened, I think Roxy and I talked about it, and I said this thing's going to go to at least Comic-Con, because they know the writer strike, because they know that they can keep the writers at bay. I said if I didn't think the SAG strike was going to happen. I said if the SAG strike happens, they're going to be forced to try to do something. I think they're going to try to figure it out by November, December, because they want these big movies to come out for the holiday season. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Now, the only thing there was the report today that they might hold this thing out until January, February, which is also very possible. But
yeah, I think so.
I do. The thing is, I want because I don't know what's your heart out, everybody. Roxy, got a heart out?
I'm okay.
I'm good.
Okay, because I know that once I start in on the new topic, it might be. So you know where I'm going, Kate?
No.
Okay, good.
Well, can I just say two things very quickly before we move on to this new topic? Number one,
I think before Dan, we are going to have some questions relevant to this.
Yes.
Maybe you can play into that. So let me start with Rudy Salazar's question. With the strike putting such a spotlight on AI, do you feel that what is eventually agreed upon will set a precedent for how it is handled in other industries?
It's a great question. I don't know.
Creative industries, I think, regarding artist rights, but it's such a sprawling thing that I don't necessarily think that Meta is going to structure any kind of agreement they have on. I mean, it's already run by AI. Let's be honest. I think AI, for me, I think it's very much, and that's why it's so tricky here, is you have to figure out how it relates to art and copyright and likeness. And, that's a different application as opposed to how do you run a warehouse, logistics using AI, and the Teamsters and their union dealing with AI. That's a totally different application, I think.
I also think very rarely do other industries look to Hollywood as the gold standard for actually anything.
True. I think we're kind of fucked.
I think you're right.
I think I agree with Roxy there. I think
100%.
You got to fight with what you can. Yeah.
Wait till I get into my topic.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, go ahead, Kristian.
No, Cam, you were going to say before we went to that question, was that relevant?
Two quick things. I wrote this down 3 minutes into the show, which is that I didn't know that Dickie worked on the Thundermans, because one of the first person to come up to me when I moved to Los Angeles back in 2005 and say hello and want to be my friend was Chris Tallman. And he is the best person in the world, and I will never forget that. I have not seen him in forever, but he is the most amazing person.
He played Mr. Thunderman. We're not promoting him. We're just saying his name.
I'm in the Chris Tallman promotion business.
Okay, I am too. I love him. He's the nicest.
He's
deeply
an amazing
funny
person, and I will never forget that he was literally the first person I did not know in Los Angeles who came up to me at a Channel 101 screening and said, "What's your name?" and talked to me. Anyway. Be nice to people because they never forget it. Number two, Kristian, I think it is very on brand that you brought me onto what I'm going to assume is the most boring episode of this show that you've ever done. Isn't this usually Brett farting into the microphone? And
this is legit. And no, it's not like the other crew members are going to read this, so I have no problem reading this. This is legit. What I just wrote to PLD. This is the best stream so far that we have done, including live event.
I'm glad.
To me, this is the best conversation we've had so far. It was a full-on informative. It was, this is not.
No one's children walked in.
No, but don't worry, Dan. My topic's gonna get bizarre. It's gonna get crazy.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't bringing the vibe of the show down.
No, are you kidding? Roxy, you agree that this is a great conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody else got their final comments. Shout out to UPS deal with the Teamsters today. put off their
Oh, no
avoid their
UPS strike.
strike.
That's
Did you guys
good.
see?
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
That's awesome.
Oh,
When
yeah.
we're talking about union, sorry, yeah, because
But
that
also,
was
like,
not boring. That was super exciting.
But
Yeah, what
speaking
you were
of speaking of unions, does the DGA feel like a bunch of dicks right now that they settled so quickly
No,
with the
I asked them-
AMTPT?
I've been asking them on the picket lines because a lot of the
Who you got to direct now, DGA? Who you got to direct?
they're stoked about their deal.
Yeah,
I'm
they're a
like,
very different deal.
They're fucking
Yeah.
stoked about their
Yeah,
deal.
they're-
So
they're-
I'm like, okay.
That's also the line I would tell if I had
Yeah.
very clearly been offered to go in on something with the Writers Guild and didn't.
Right.
I'd be like, no, we're really happy. It was great. It was good for
Great.
us.
It was good. Let me read this one from Andrew, and then we'll get into my topic. Andrew Smith. Hey, everyone. Question for the panel. Was there ever someone you wanted to have in the Schmodown who wasn't able to make it on the show? Yeah, Edgar Wright. That was one that I was wanted. I was always hoping to see Star Wars theory. What? Yeah. There was conversations. Sean Chandler and Weekly Planet on the SD. I mean, well, Sean Chandler was in the draft for sure. He was in it, and then something happened. He was going to play an FCL for a second. Didn't happen. And then Andrew says a Dan specific question: what 2023 movie will last the longest in the top 10 going into 2024? I hope you all have a great time.
I mean, that's tough because right now it seems like all of those release dates are
in the air,
completely up in the air. Assuming, let's say, that nothing moves, I don't know. Like I still feel like something might move into that December slot. Like maybe something will get bumped from November into December, but I don't know. I bet really heavily on The Flash this summer, and I just got totally embarrassed. I picked it as the fourth highest grossing film of the summer, and it's not even going to be in the top 10.
I'm so with you, Dan. I did the exact same thing on the big thing. I was like, this movie's going to annihilate.
Yeah.
Because I made the bets in April. I made my predictions in April, and I ranked Barbie 10th because there had been no trailers, no promotion. Nobody knew what it was. We just knew that Greta Gerwig was making a Barbie movie, and I was like, this could be anything. But I picked it 10th, and now people are like, oh, you dummy, picking it 10th. I'm like, yeah, you go back in April and pick the top 10 for the summer in July, you geniuses. But this is 99% of people are wonderful. It's that 1%.
I know.
But yeah, no, I was super high on The Flash, but I mean, it was Chris Tallman. If it's a good movie, I mean, if you get that Jason Momoa vibe from Fast X in the movie, I could see Aquaman kind of doing what this first movie did, which is that it opened right around Christmas and then it kind of did well into January. But it also seems like people just don't care about DC anymore.
I think that was in big trouble also, Dan, because of all I know that reshoots are a thing that they always happen. They're in like their fourth round of reshoots, and like the amount of money that movies cost to be able to make it up. I don't know if it's going to be, and I think we're in a very different place into 2017 or whatever that came out. But
no, 2018. Yeah. So December of 2018. It's other than that, hang on. I'm just pulling up the schedule here to look and see, because it's usually something that goes into like
Dune, but Dune's not going to come out, right?
Yeah. I mean, God, that Wonka movie looks terrible.
Oh, it looks terrible.
Awful. It looks so bad.
You're crazy.
I'm not crazy.
You're crazy.
That he looks like the most miscast person.
Okay, I gotta say, Murrell, after your batting average isn't really good here to come into this doesn't look good, because you just said you thought Flash was going to be big and Barbie was going to be awful. So
I said Barbie was going to be awful. I said we didn't know what it was going to be, I said I did put it in my top 10 because it was like I'm going to look really silly.
I'm going to make a prediction, Dan. I think that you're going to like Wonka. I think you're going to like Wonka.
I better like it more than that trailer. So,
Kristian, are you going to have us talk about aliens? Tell me that's your topic.
Okay, listen to me.
Is that right? Am I right?
Listen to me.
I've been obsessing over aliens and shit.
Fuck yeah, Roxy. Listen. All right,
let's go.
Listen to me. Who is watching the hearings tomorrow? Who knew? Who didn't know about
They're in the morning.
They're at 7 in the morning. All right.
That sounds like something my uncle would post on Facebook. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
You guys don't know. They are amongst us.
Actual Senate hearings. No, listen. So this is what I'm gonna break down the situation first before you hear something and then go, oh yeah, it's taboo craziness again. So the other day I was watching, because of Roxy's recommendation, I was watching Jury Duty. Phenomenal, best comedy.
I recommended it before this.
God. The guy that I lost my virginity to is the director of that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a good show, so he did a good job.
He did great. He does a lot of great
I wasn't
stuff.
talking about the show. So the show itself, it was great. So I was about 4 episodes in, and I'm watching it, and then I pause it for a second. And I'm about to go back to watching it, and for some reason Disney Plus comes up, and they have National Geographic. So I see a thing that pops up on top, and it says UFOs exploring the investigating the unknown. So I'm like, okay, this is one of those ancient alien things, and from the History channels, I've watched them a million times over. They're a blast. I'll check it out. 5 episodes, just went through them because of the stuff that was included in it was incredible, and the stuff that I just didn't know. What I did remember was being on Collider Live in 2018, and us talking about this. And so what happened was, and I'll give the breakdown of it, get all your thoughts about all this stuff in general, what you believe, what you don't. All I ask people is before
Dan, have an open mind, Dan. Open mind in your heart.
I'm not telling you to believe in aliens. I'm not telling you to believe in all. I'm not telling you is, as especially someone like a Dan Murrell, listen to the facts in general, and then make your own conclusion at the end of it, right? That's all I'm asking.
Listen, I'm out there saying that there are people actually in seats to watch Sound of Freedom. I'm not a closed-minded person. I believe that people are going to the theaters, so I'm not closed off the possibilities.
Fair. All right. So what happened now? We all know about in the 1940s. There was the Roswell
War
case. Right. But there was a Roswell case. There's all that. People know that, whether or not you think they were weather balloons, cover-ups, whatever you might think. There is what you cannot dispute is that the government had an agency called Project Blue Book, from which also Robert Hynek, who ran Blue Book, was actually a consultant on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Right. So from 1940 something to 1969, he was a skeptic when he went in, by the way. And when he came out of it, he said there were a lot of cases that should be explored. What his recommendation was, there's enough going on in the skies that we need more information for, is what he said. And there's a lot of different credible cases throughout, a lot of hoaxes, a lot of credible cases. Anyway, so fast forward to 2016, 2017. I can't remember the freaking guy's name. Who was the Senator Harry Reid, Senator Majority Leader Harry Reid
of Nevada.
Jinx.
So Harry Reid was again supposedly at first approved this guy who to run up they call them UAPs now instead of UFOs, and had him run a division for the government and find out all this information, because there were reports that these pilots were consistently seeing these things in the sky and getting footage of it, and to investigate it. So one particular guy did, and he wanted more information, and they were getting pushback from lots of different places that said they didn't want this freaking division open. They had their own thing that said, fuck off to Harry Reid and everyone else too. Again, Harry Reid supposedly. So this guy says, okay, I'm out of here. I can't do this. And he takes the footage with him, and he leaks it to a woman named Leslie Kean, who was a reporter. Leslie Kean is a reporter who's been investigating for a long time, goes to the New York Times. The New York Times goes, okay, sure. Looks at the footage and goes, holy shit. These are a couple different pilots that have just 2 different sightings, one in 2004 and one in 2015. Sees these things, has the footage. They said, okay, well, Harry Reid apparently is the one who approved this. We'll get an interview with Harry Reid. If he says that he approved a UAP division, then we'll run this footage and we'll put him in the story. But there's no way that he's going to say yes. So New York Times goes, Harry Reid admits to all of it and says that the UAP and the divisions and all of these things were. And so there was a lot of investigation on it, and it was more sightings, more things, more footage, and all these different accounts from all over the world. And there's apparently, Harry Reid said, there's so much that they're keeping that the people need to see. So last month there was a CIA, or not CIA, there was an intelligence officer and his name is David Grush. David Grush was a highly decorated, not a kook, highly decorated intelligence officer. Came out a month ago, sat down, and what's the one that Chris Cuomo was on?
He did News
Nation.
Nation.
So he sits down with News Nation.
This
is a guy who worked for UAP, and he filed a whistleblower complaint, where you're supposed to be protected, by the way, when you fill out a whistleblower complaint. That while he was there, he had people inside of the program he was working on inside of the UAP investigations, that they not only recovered ships. They recovered actual bodies. And because of this, he reported this on a whistleblower report. Chuck Schumer, Marco Rubio working together. And now this guy, the main guy from Tennessee, I always forget his name, Roxy, the main guy who's running this whole thing, another Republican. But they're so much so that all these senators are like, we need answers now from this. And they want.
And Harry Reid's dead though now.
Harry Reid is, but this is, but
Gresh also talked about at the time how not only did the United States have a division specifically in the government that was looking into this, but so did Russia and China, and they had also found bodies and crafts
and similar bodies.
I'm telling you, watch. There's the three things that I watched that I went to.
The death of human bodies.
Oh! It wasn't like bodies of.
I was about to say, are we talking corpses, as in these could be military personnel, or are they saying these are extraterrestrial corpses?
There are reports of both.
Mm-hmm.
There are reports of both. What I would tell you is to watch. There's three that I will tell you to watch, and in this order, because if you watch the third one first, you're gonna go, okay, I think I'm out. But watch them in this order. Watch the one that I told you, and that's UFOs Investigating the Unknown on National Geographic. Watch it for yourself and and see all the facts of what's there. The next one is Phenomenon by James Fox, the director James Fox. That's the second one. That one kind of summarizes the 5-parter. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff from it, but it's Kate. You'll see this one thing that happens. Did you watch Phenomenon, Roxy?
No.
Roxy, watch Phenomenon, because I want you to watch it so we can talk about it on Wednesday also. Phenomenon covers this thing that happened in South Africa, and it'll blow your fucking mind.
Okay, I love a good non-scripted recommendation right now.
Yes, and then the other James Fox one.
Don't you roll your eyes at me, damn Murrell.
I didn't roll anything.
That was deeply funny, Rox.
The other James Fox one is called Moment of Contact, which is about this town in Varginha in Brazil. It's about
I thought you were saying Virginia. Weird.
No, Virginia.
I also thought he was saying Virginia.
No, Virginia.
Virginia.
It takes place.
Let's into her Virginia.
It's about the size of Colorado, right? And they all.
Virginia's way.
Virginia. But they all have. This is about half the population have. There's an encounter that happened as far as a UFO that supposedly landed, that military from the United States got involved in. That is a high-level government officials that had given interviews, and this is the one I tell you to watch last. But watch the first two,
okay?
And just for the information alone, and like you can very much so, Dan, at the end of it, come back and go, look, it's interesting. I think the question is too, not even if it's aliens, not if you believe in it's aliens, but the question is because there's in the Phenomenon documentary. They talk about how these things, and these are officials that were working in nuclear plants that were, again, not crazy people, not anyone's getting paid. They said that there was something that was hovering. It was a disc shape that was hovering, and it was scanning and everything shut off. And I forget where, I don't remember if it was in, I forget which part where it was, but there was, and this is a highly documented case, and it shut off a lot of the nuclear stuff. It scanned, and then it zipped away. And this is a lot of different nuclear sites that have said it has been scanning. So let's say for an argument, they announce, they tell you at these hearings that, yeah, those things had happened. We need to know this, like, even if it's just technology from another country, we need to know that.
Yeah.
Like, who's doing that?
I've often, I do not disbelieve in UFOs. And I also do believe that there is intelligent life outside of our solar system. I don't necessarily know if the two are linked here on Earth, but I also believe that our government and other governments I know that they are up to things that are far beyond anything that we're comfortable with. And I agree. I think I would almost rather them say tomorrow or whenever, you know what, it's aliens. We don't know where they came from, than them saying like, yes, for the last 50 years, Russia has been sending manned craft into our airspace to scan all of our critical infrastructure, and nobody can stop them, and they're undetectable. It's like, oh, wonderful. That's cool. Good to know.
I'm very much with you. I also think that in a time in which we are so effing divided in this country, why this is such a cool topic is because this is truly a bipartisan issue.
It is.
That it seems like everybody wants to know more about. Everybody wants answers. And even within our government, like it's equal counts Republican and Democrat senators that are pushing for answers on this. And it's like, because we're talking about effing aliens, and it is one of the craziest, like this could be
biggest story in the world.
This could be one of the biggest few months of Earth period.
No, I will say this.
Us finding things out.
But this is what I'm going to say though, because I have watched, like, Dan, I know you well enough that you watch these five parts of the facts that are presented. I think that you'll see it. I'm not telling you that you're going to start believing that aliens are here, but I think you're going to see these different facts, because there's just tons of shit I just didn't know when I was watching it. And then I saw somebody and I know you guys knew this already, but I saw somebody who commented on one of the videos that we did. And they said, I think it's hilarious that only the United States sees these things. Like, that is not the case. That is definitely not the case. There's tons of reports of different countries, but I just think that there's signs.
Brazil, everywhere.
There's tons of. But what I'm going to say is this. Even though, because and by the way, so there's three key witnesses that are testifying. They wouldn't let Ryan Graves, who took the footage that we watched, Roxy and Claire live, that saw that, look at that thing, and like you saw that thing, the disc moving and shifting. They wouldn't let him. The last thing, that there wasn't a hearing, but there was this thing that they were talking about where the government was pushing, some of the senators were pushing some other officials and some of the military of the Air Force about what's going on, and they wouldn't let Ryan Graves speak. Well, Ryan Graves is speaking. There's another, I always forget the first guy who saw them, and then they're actually going to have David Grush also. So all three of them are going to be testifying. What I don't think is going to happen, unfortunately, if they have been covering up this stuff for 80 plus years, I think they're going to go through hell and high water to make sure that that's protected. Like, when you watch Phenomenon and you see the footage and the testimony from the guy who actually the old military just vet who found the crash and then was told, and this is a normal guy, and he's like, yeah, I was told to say it was a balloon. Wasn't a balloon. I crumpled up. This is like footage from like 1975, 1980s. Like, I crumpled it up, went right back to normal. I've never seen anything like that before. It's like, wasn't a balloon, but they told us to say it was a balloon. We said it was a balloon. And then you see, like, you just look at the different, and just the amount of the different cover-ups that have been happening. There's a cover-up for sure. Again, what it is, I leave that to your judgment. There's been a cover-up for 80 plus years. It's nuts.
Listen, I'm sure that this is a great program. I will say that I have never had something described to me in the manner that you just described this that turned out to be sane. But having said that, this sounds like I know you. You're a reasonable person. So
yeah, I'm not. Look, I get it. And they go through that, Dan, many times over. This is a very taboo subject because of the way it's been put into culture. It was that when you look at for me, what won me over was the reputable people. This isn't like
was the alien that paid you to say this.
Yeah, these weren't two drunk farmers. Drinking moonshine, going, saw a ship. These are high-ranking military people. There are villages, there are towns in Hudson. Kate, this is what's crazy. There's this thing inside of this 5-parter, which you're gonna go, what? Have any one of you heard of the incident that happened at O'Hare, the airport?
When I saw Bill Cartwright from the 1996 Bulls, and then I lost the ticket he signed for me.
Right.
I mean, back in the 90s, I remember a family took off from there and they left their kid at home. It was all over the news.
No, I've never heard anything from O'Hare.
Crazy fucking in the middle of the day sighting that half of like Delta Airlines
is that Home Alone
crew saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, watch the 5, Dan. Watch at least 1 or 2 parts. Text me afterwards and say, no, it's still Cuckooville for me.
Yeah.
And in all due respect. So I'll give you all the respect. All I'm telling you is, I'm going to bring PLD in for a second because he's watched I think 2 or 3 parts after I
also would like to
now
say
this is starting to feel like a multi-level marketing pitch. Now I'm a little more on my heels here. When you start bringing in third parties testimonials, I'm a little more.
He might think it sucks too. I haven't really talked to him about it.
I actually finished. I watched all 5 parts. And
okay.
I gotta tell you, I agree with Kristian. I was very much a non-believer of this forever. I kind of always thought it was like the drunken whatever. What gets me is these people speak very educated. They're very interested, and they're not claiming this is aliens. This is not aliens. This is all about the search for, well, there's something going on. It's endangering us potentially as far as like airways go and everything else. We should at least be doing something to figure out what this is. And that's the thing that gets me. It's not saying this is definitively aliens. It's like we should look into this more. That's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
I think that, Dan, I'm like probably the most jaded human being I know in so many ways, because I also grew up with a family that like full blown had me watch conspiracy docs. I have watched everything on the moon landing. I have watched everything on flat earthers. I know what it is to watch a doc that's really well made with people who are well spoken and still come out of it and be like, bullshit. That is a crazy thing that you guys just did. With JFK, with 9/11. I mean, you talk about the major conspiracy theories, and I have seen every doc on all of them. Like PLD just said, and like Kristian mentioned, this is weird, and I can't explain it. I don't know if it is aliens. Like you, I believe that there is life outside of here. I don't know what's actually been able to come here. That defies science to me. So I would need some very clear explanations on how on earth that was able to happen. But when you watch this stuff, I'm just like, what's up? What is up? Because something's up.
Wait,
sure.
Roxy, wait till you see these 5 parts. You feel that way now? Wait until you see these 5 parts. I can't wait.
I'm a believer in UFOs. Absolutely, I am. I don't think everybody's making that up. I just don't believe that they are extraterrestrial in nature. There's just shady stuff going on,
which is totally fine. Like I said, though, it's more so, Dan, like PLD. When you watch these 5 parts, I just didn't realize. I was thought, okay, there's like 4 or 5 cases. There's like 4 or 5 cases every month. And not and I don't mean ones that again, I saw a UFO. I mean documented cases where they send people. This is why they have this UAP program, because they send people out to go, okay, this is what Heinrich did for a long time. He would go out to these places and he would investigate and he would document the ones that he thought were legitimate. And there's tons of stuff that they have this is what Grush says. Grush says that there's tons of pictures, tons of footage. Harry Reid said that there's stuff that has never seen the light of day that would blow the public's mind. And he's, again, not necessarily saying aliens, just saying that these particular things, because the other thing that some people think that is this is what Riley and I talked about, reverse engineering. Let's say hypothetically they did recover something in Roswell, right? And then what they've been flying around the last 10, 15 years, we figured out how to do it. They don't want that information out there because they figured out they reverse engineered it. And then you're admitting that you found this craft. B, that you're using it, when other governments, other places can use the technology. So the cover up itself, I get why they're doing it, but yeah, I just don't think anything's going to happen from it. But y'all sure as shit be watching those hearings tomorrow.
What's the deal with the rebrand of UFO to UAP? Is that like a Mayo to aioli thing? It's
the stigma. And they're trying to get the stigma away from it. They're trying to make that. I think that by bringing in UAP, they're trying to make it, because it really started around that time that the Air Force pilots were releasing that footage, because it's about as legitimate as it gets when their cameras are the ones picking this stuff up. That when you say UFO, if I say, oh, I think the UFOs are real, they go, okay, kooky pants. And it's like, you say UAP, what's that? Oh, it's UFO. Okay, kooky pants.
It's 1 letter away from WAP, baby.
Well, I'm just saying, it's because my wife, same thing as you guys. That if Dan's face could be an expression for everyone that has it, I just want people to watch this 5-part. Because before I turned it on, I was Ancient Aliens guy going, I was like, Dan, I think they're out there. I think there's some fucking crazy shit that we've never heard about, and they document it very well in this special.
Welcome to the club. This has been my entire childhood.
It would be very funny if let's say they blow the lid off of this thing tomorrow, and the aliens are like, all right, jigs up, we're doing it. And the last cultural event before the intergalactic war that ended the planet was that a Barbie movie came out. Right. It was like Barbie movie, and then the world.
Even better, it would be amazing if the AI that everybody was saying should be allowed is actually alien intelligence, and they're actually just trying to hire a bunch of aliens to write our movies now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that would be cool.
I also know that you're not going to be able to watch all 5 parts. Like you're going to be you should watch Phenomenon first.
Oh, should I?
Yeah, you should watch it.
Listen,
You watch it tonight. Watch it tonight, please, and
I
text.
will, because I'll tell you, I'm in Chicago with my family, and by the
okay.
end of the day, I don't want to speak to anybody.
I'm telling you, watch James Fox phenomenon. And I was recommended this by the audience after we talked about it with Ellis last week. They put me down this rabbit hole, and I started listening to James Fox interviews, and like he's in this 5-parter that I talked about as well too. But anyway, Dan, I respect you more than anything. If you give me a call, you give me a text and say, same thing. Look, I watched it, and I still feel the same exact way. But it's interesting that all this information is out there. That's all I ask.
Fair enough. What does Joe Rogan have to say about
James Fox
gotten his take
on Rogan. James Fox is definitely on Rogan. I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't watch an interview with James Fox on Rogan, for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, well, look,
listen. It sounds like it's a bipartisan issue.
It is
that crosses all sorts of podcasts.
It is.
So
yeah.
Truly, get on board.
The world girls.
The aliens are on strike.
Well, I've been saying it's the most famous quote that I had on Collider Live. Aliens and shit.
Aliens and shit.
I love aliens.
I don't think that's your most favorite or your most famous.
Oh,
I'll
no.
suck my dick.
I think suck my dick probably trumped that one.
Yeah.
Because I got yelled at so much after that one.
Yeah. Well, not by me.
No. To be clear, it was not Kristian.
No. All right, guys. This was a fun one. Contrary to what Dan thinks, this was the least boring conversation. We had a great conversation about, as Roxy says, aliens and shit. We also talked about the SAG stuff, which I thought was great, and the Writers Guild stuff was amazing. I thought there was a lot of great opinions. I hope everybody had a great conversation in the chat room about it as well too. And I don't know, I might even put some of these segments up on the Big Thing Clips channel because it was such a good episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to thank Dan Murrell, Kate Mulligan, Roxy Striar, PLD. Make sure you check out the show tomorrow. I don't even know who's on Big Thing tomorrow, to be honest with you. I don't know if Steph and
Brett's a safe guess. I feel like
Brett, yeah, but Steph and Mike and
Glorbacks, depending on the outcome of the hearings, Glorbacks will be on everyone's show tomorrow.
He's coming up first interview. I got him. I locked
him down. Interview.
Yeah, I locked him down. This is oily skin and red eyes. All right, enjoy, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Watch those damn hearings tomorrow at 7 so we can all be on the same page, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace, everybody. Well, that was it. That was the conversation, man. That was myself and Dan and Roxy and Kate. I thought it was a great one. I'm really curious to hear what you guys thought of the conversation. Also, very curious to get your thoughts, opinions. Make sure you like, comment, as I mentioned through the show. If you're able to and you have the funds to do so and you want to support the show, please either check out Rocket Money or Green Chef or both. People continuously are asking how they can help the show, and people are like, I want you guys to be the #1 show. I want you guys to be the #1 show in this space. How can I help? That's how you can help. And how does that help? Because it helps us continue to keep going and keep pushing and be able to use things to be able to, the sponsors to keep coming back, and it allows us to do more and more shows and to keep the lights on, if you will. So that being said, I'd like to thank all my panelists today, and I'd like to thank you guys for listening. Keep those comments and likes coming on, and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found. You can find us, and you can find us again back here tomorrow with myself, Roxy Striar. I think Brett Sheridan's going to be here. We'll see. Either way, it's the Big Thing. Thanks for joining us. Peace.